Happy Friday, guys, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Dubs. I'm your host, Bill T. Well, it's Friday, and we've got another podcast for you. And this podcast, it's a little bit unique this week because I did an interview with Damon Harmon, who is a drag racer out of Texas. He ran Quater Toy 1, Quater Toy 2, and now he's piloting Quater Toy 3. He's been drag racing since the late 80s, early 90s, and he's a lifer VW guy. Great guy. He was pitting with mech speed over there, and they were just kind of helping each other out. He's got a set of his heads, and then they're just good pals, and we got to chatting over there. And so I wanted to do an interview because I'm familiar with Quater Toy and Quater Toy 2 from seeing it in the magazines all the time. And we were talking, we did the interview, kind of wrapped it up a little bit quick, and then as we're talking afterwards, we were just chatting. He starts telling me these stories, and I'm like, I need these stories on the podcast. Like, these are excellent stories. So there'll be 2 cut-ins in this podcast that the background noise be different and things like that. So some of you guys that are the big audio files out there, I get it. It's not the same, but you can tell. But they're worthwhile. They're great stories, and it's definitely something that I think you guys would be interested in. And when I listened back to the podcast, I needed these stories in there just because it kind of rounded out the whole picture. So you're welcome. Yeah. Doing it for the history, guys. And it's completely worth it. So you guys will be fine. I know you'll appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys for supporting Let's Talk Dubs. The rooms have, the first block of rooms sold out. They've opened another block of rooms. So make sure you go to letstalkdubs.com, reserve your rooms. The people at the hotel said, wow, you already sold out the first block. That's a great problem to have 2 months before the event. So it's going to be going nuts. One of the big things that'll be happening, and I'll be announcing some stuff that's going to be happening on Thursday for those of you that want to get in a day early and just enjoy Vegas. It's a no pressure, just kind of cool things to do that you'll be dialed in with from being part of the One Crazy Weekend. And so those I'll announce coming up in the next week or so. In addition to that, announce that Impy's come on as the primary sponsor for this event. So big shout out to Impy for supporting the One Crazy Weekend. So excited about that. But I'm also excited because we're going to debut Zorba the Gia there. Now, I haven't seen Zorba since I was back in the UK. I've seen everything that you guys have seen on Instagram. Now, there's a few builders in the circle of builders that are friends with Andy that have seen lots and lots of detailed pictures of my car that I haven't seen. And Andy wants to be there when I see the car for the first time. So I'm doing my best to keep my promise. I'm excited. I mean, I know all the elements that are going into this build, and I'm super stoked. We're doing something different. Andy and I are going to do a podcast about the car, the build, the decisions, things like that, because it's something we haven't seen in a while. You've heard me talk back on the podcast a few times that a lot of people are just kind of building stuff that's, keeping it stock within, like, everybody kind of builds stuff. Most people, not everybody, most people that are building high level cars, with the exception of a handful, are building stuff that's like, got to keep it a stock color, keep the stocks. They're like stock cars slammed with big motors, right? We went completely out of left field. We went back to building the car you want to build, which I don't know if you guys have noticed on my cars. I build what I want to build. I do the wheels I want, the brakes I want, the paint I want, all that stuff. And Zorba is no exception, with the difference of it's a tribute to my heritage and to my dad and things like that. So there's a lot of personal touches in this car for me that are super cool, and things that I thought would be cool, and really building car, making make building cars your own again. Like, do you, man? Like, when you see Cat's Rag back in the day, they built that for him. Like, he built what he wanted to do. The current influence was pushing things, and everybody was just trying to outdo the next guy. And I think that's kind of missing from the scene. So I'm excited for Zorba to get debuted for everybody to see it. So if you guys haven't booked your rooms yet, book your rooms. We are also having a special award built by Buddy Hale that's going to be for debut cars. Now, my car obviously will be exempt from this, but we have a special award being built by Buddy Hale in Phoenix, Arizona. that's going to be for debut cars. So we will have a special section for debut cars. If you're planning to debut a car at my show, make sure that you reach out to me, Bill at Let's Talk Dubs. Send me a message so that we get you a preferential parking space for cars that are debuting, that are just going for, they're going for the debut award, debuting their car to be judged by a panel of builders, right? Andy's building an award to give out for Andy's pick, and Lanny's building an award, Lanny Hussey out of Canada. So I'm pretty stoked about that. I enjoy that the builders are making awards for cars that they pick, and it's really kind of their discretion. It's more going to be for them to pick something that really resonates with them to some degree or another. Last year, Andy had a Spike's Pick Award, and it went to the car that he just saw the paint, says, I love the paint on this thing. I love it was like a candy paint and stuff. And so he's a sucker for candy paint. So, that's the car that got the award. And there will be a People's Choice this year. We've got in the window placards, there's a QR code where people can vote for your car. And I'm really going to educate people on how to use that, because I think it's the best way to do People's Choice. You can only vote once, and you have to be within that geographic area. And hopefully we'll get a lot of people that are walking in and out of the car show will be voting for cars, because you can do that. So really going to be pushing that this year. So I'm using Car Show Pro for that, and hoping to get a lot of participation on that. Last year, the guy that won the People's Choice Award was the guy that had the most votes, and then we did our top 20. So there's a top 20, there's People's Choice, and there's specialty awards from Lanny Hussey, Andy Finch, and also Buddy Hale with the debut award for the car that debuts. And we're making car shows fun again. We're not making them political. They're not about who's buddies with who. That's all nonsense, man. Vegas is where you come to have fun, to get outside of the politics of car shows and all the nonsense. So if that's what you're looking for, Vegas is that show. If you're looking for a nonstop good time that kicks off from the minute you land to the minute you leave, Vegas is the show. The place to stay is super affordable. Trailer parking is free. Security's 24 hours. You got nothing to worry about but show up, have a great time. And who knows, you might be the one that wins the $1,500 in cash at the poker run. But there's also a $300, a $200, and a couple other $100 scattered here and there for everybody to get a chance to win. So super stoked about that. But I'll tell you this, the memories and the friends that you make are above everything else the greatest thing about one crazy weekend. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited for you guys to get into this podcast here with Damon Harmon. But before we kick on that, I want to give a shout out. A shout out goes to Sean Rowland out of Overland, Missouri. Picked up some merch. I appreciate you. But wanted to make sure that I recognize him. Don't know if I did it last week, but I'm doing it this week again too if I did last week. So he gets a double shout out. I've noticed that I haven't got some updated reviews. Last review we got on Apple Podcast was back in March. I'd like for you guys to go and give me some reviews on Apple Podcasts. Give me a 5-star review and leave a comment. Don't forget to leave your name in the comment so I can give you a shout out on Let's Talk Dubs podcast. So other than that, guys, check out the YouTube channel. I'll be coming up with a part 3 video of Zorba up to what I know. And then the next video you'll see after that will be coming out with regards to Zorba will be the finale video when the cars debuted, and then just kind of Andy and I talking about the build process and the ideas going back and forth, and a lot of the decisions that were made. Because again, this car, if you made a list of all the things that cars today are built with, this car has it doesn't match up with what's being built today. And we'll go over all that detail. So don't want to spoil it for you guys. Also look out for a couple videos for some cars that I saw out in the UK when I was there. So did some interviews with a couple of owners, and we'll be looking at their vehicles. Also be putting out the rest of if you haven't been to my YouTube channel, the Cowlook Caravan, I've done 2 videos of 4 videos that are coming out for that. The third one will come out this weekend. So check it out if you want to know what the experience was like to be there. It was pretty rad. I got a lot of footage, and you guys can check out those videos. So don't forget to go subscribe to George's YouTube channel and support those that support Let's Talk Dubs. George's YouTube channel is The Wagon at YouTube. A lot of more informative instructional videos that you guys will definitely like. So go check that out. Also, don't forget to support those that support Let's Talk Dubs. Subscribe today at vwtrendsmagazine.com. That's vwtrendsmagazine.com, as well as Ross Wolf. High performance aftermarket parts made for enthusiasts by enthusiasts, not for a quick buck, but to bring something better to the market. Go check them out today at rosswolf.com. I personally like tons of stuff. I've got the locking dipstick. I've got their pulley set. I've got the velocity stacks. I've got all the jewelry on my engine. And you should get that too, because it's cool stuff and it's quality built. So without any further ado, guys, let's get into it. This week, Damon Harmon, pilot for Quater Toy 1, 2, and 3 on this week's Let's Talk Dubs.
You probably don't know that there's a new Volkswagen out that doesn't look like a Volkswagen. It's got everything that people who like the bug like. So if you happen to see a good-looking Volkswagen, don't panic.
Okay, everybody, so on today's show, it's another one coming from EBI 2024. I came all the way around the world to meet a guy from Texas, if you can believe it or not. So I'm sure some of you guys that follow drag racing have no questions have heard of the Quater Toy, and I'm sitting here with the owner, multi-record holding pro stock racer, Damon Harmon, out of Irving, Texas. Damon, welcome to the podcast.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
So I'm excited to have you on here today because, you know, like I told you in the past, I really like to focus on trying to help the drag race scene get involved with the VW scene. Although it's the same scene, they're kind of two scenes, and I love to be able to get the story of the drag racers because it's no different than the story of the guys that are into the cars, that are into any of that stuff. And the way that we always start the podcast. Now you've won, you race in pro stock, you hold multiple titles, have set some records.
Yes, I sure do.
And we're going to get into all that.
Yeah.
But the way that we always get into this on the podcast is, what's your VW story and how did you get into Volkswagens?
Well, I grew up in a family of 6 kids in southern Louisiana. My dad was an automotive mechanic. So naturally, his sons became grease monkeys there at his shop every afternoon after school. Yeah. From cleaning the floors and just helping the dad out around the shop in the afternoons. He did work on a lot of Volkswagen Beetles. They are coming through his shop for tune-ups, oil changes, and whatnot. But he never got into the performance of them. Just did normal maintenance. And I worked in the shop with him on the summers after school in high school and got to learn a little bit of them. When I turned 16, when I first started learning to drive, he put me in a VW Beetle, and that's how I learned how to drive. In a 4-cylinder, 4-speed air-cooled Beetle, I got my license driving a VW Beetle.
Nice.
That car was bought in 1978, and I still have it today.
Really?
Yes.
And what year is this bug?
It's a 1970 VW Beetle that now it's a Baja bug. I converted it, been through several changes through the 46 years that I owned it. I used it to go through the last 2 years of my high school, and left high school and then drove it through my 4 years or 5 years of college, and then moved to Texas, and then that's when I started racing.
Now, how did you get started? How did you get started in drag racing?
Because when I first started learning about Volkswagens, I didn't know much about them. My dad taught me how to build my first engine. We bought this VW Bug, and it had a blown engine in it when he bought it from a customer of his that wanted to sell it. So he goes, well, this will be your car here, but we need to build an engine for it. And this is a good opportunity now where you could work on your own car and build your engine. So I said, great, I would love to learn. So he taught me how to build a stock 1600 engine to get this car back on the road again. And I was so thrilled that I built it and started it, ran.
Yeah.
And I drove it to school, man. I was just a happy camper, man. I was proud.
Yeah, I mean, you
know,
I think this car for so many of us has created a lot of self accomplishment because they're so easy. that we're not threatened. We don't see something with a 50 belts on it, and a bunch of things and radiators and all this stuff,
Right.
and we see something, we think like, okay, this is easy enough that I can do it. Meanwhile, they're really complex, harder to build than a 8-cylinder V8,
Yeah.
right? But we get that level of self-confidence that we can accomplish something. It's a really good feeling when you're a young kid. And it's like, yeah, I bet you didn't build your engine in your car. You know what I mean? Kind of pumps you up
exactly.
a little bit, right?
You know, I built that engine, and he looked over my shoulder and he taught me how to build one. And I was really grateful that he did, because that started my Volkswagen venture of working on these things. And then I realized I picked up a Hot VW magazine, and I said, wait a minute, we could buy some aftermarket parts for these things and make them run better.
So what do you have any particular magazines or covers or anything like that stick in your head that, like, I saw this and it was just like, you got to have one of those?
Yes. In 1980 was when I converted my Bug into a Baja Bug. And on the front cover, there was a Baja Bug on there that had a Geesey racing scoop on it. And I said, well, man, this is ideal. This is what I want to turn this car of mine into, because the front end didn't wreck before, and the back end had some damage on it before when we got it. So I said, this would be an opportunity to cut off all of that, put a Baja kit on it, and let's see what happens.
Call it good, yeah?
Call it good. And I built this Baja Bug, and I started January the 1st of 1981. And in 19 days, I had this thing back on the road again with the Baja kit on it.
Was this your only driver?
My only driver.
There's a lot of stories like that.
And I built it out in my dad's shop.
Rolled it in Friday afternoon, had to get ready for work by Monday morning. So, yeah, it was a weekend marathon, right?
And then my dad, actually, him and I, we painted it. And I got documents of pictures of painting this thing, and, building this Baja Bug, right?
Yeah.
And then once I turned it into the Baja Bug, then I had to start I started doing more changes to the engine. I said, wait a minute, I could buy a carburetor for this thing and go from a single carburetor and put a little 2-barrel Holley progressive Weber on this thing.
Yeah.
And I bought it, and I did. And
probably did the glass pack exhaust and some stuff and started to
I did have a dual exhaust on it. I had a dual exhaust on it, for a Baja.
The one that comes up with the dual pipes coming down?
No, it was
the
1 and 2 came out of the right side, and 3 and 4 came out of the left side. It was the
dual
like
glass
a zoom
packs.
tube.
Yeah.
And had that on there for several years. And I just started reading more about these things from Hot VW. Hot VW magazine was my go-to place of learning these things, right? And then eventually just got that thing, putting other things into it, putting bigger tires and wheels on it. But I was really intrigued on performance of this thing, and I wanted it to run better and run faster, because I had other VW buddies that had bugs too in town, and we were, drag racing them on the side, trying to see who had the fastest bug, And
Well, yeah, as soon as you change the muffler, the thing sounds like a race car.
It sounded like a race car.
Let's get it.
This buddy of mine had this Dodge Charger, and he goes, man, why don't you take your bug to this drag strip? They have open drag races at this airport. And he goes, let's go see what your car will do. So we took it there, and that was in 1981. I drove my bug for the first time down the drag strip, and the first pass, it went like a 1680. I was saying, woo, I thought I was flying, man.
Hey, that's fast for a Baja with a 1600.
I didn't know what I was doing. And then they said, we got to dial the car in, for eliminations. So I dialed it in, and then I ran like two or three time trials, and then an elimination. And then I broke out because I went too fast. I said, dang it, I don't like this kind of racing. I just want to run this thing wide open as fast as I can. Well, I got beat after the first round because I broke out. So that ended that day. But it started another day of thinking, I want to do more of this.
So you started doing more, I can't think of the name. It was more like sportsman class.
It was.
Like
yes.
just
bracket racing.
Bracket. I don't know why I can't think of bracket racing.
Yes, bracket racing.
But
right.
straight up bracket racing, which really is a difficult race to run, because the car is a 4-speed. You got to shift it. There's all kinds of stuff that can happen, throw you off. We're talking tenths of a second, and to be able to know your car that well and to be able to feel how fast it's going to run, it's really. Some people look at it as like, oh, that's kind of boring, but in the beginning, it's really exciting to kind of pinpoint where you're going to get your car and dial it in. And so Now, once you kind of get the fever of dialing your car in, how long do you run this car, and what's the evolution?
I ran it a couple of times before I bought my first drag car. And that was my daily driver, so I didn't want to tear that thing up and didn't have transportation. So another friend of mine, Cliff Angel, was wanting to build a drag bug, and he came to me and wanted me to help him to build his car. So I said, man, I would love to, man. I can't afford to build it myself, but I'll help you build yours. I know how to build an engine. I built my first engine. So him and I got together, and we built Quater 1. He raced it for the first 2 years, and I was his crew chief.
And what year is this?
This was in 1983 to 85.
And what are you guys running for motor setup in Quater 1?
Back then, he bought a long block from Potter Machine, and it was like a...
Well, jumped right in with the big boys.
Yes, it was a 2-liter engine, right at a 2,000 cc engine, I think it was. And it had 48 IDA Webers on it. And the best he got it to run was like a 1230 quarter mile. So it was a 1230 bug. Then he got married, and then the wife didn't like the racing as much, and I was in the process of getting ready to move to Texas to start my new career. So he offered to sell it to me. I said, I would love to have that car, but I can't afford it. You go, well, that's all right. You could work out some type of payment plan.
Oh, even worse, right? He's
yeah,
like,
right.
I got to get rid of it. I want you to have it because I don't want to see it go away.
Yeah, because he knew I worked on it. He didn't want to go away. So I moved to Texas. We worked a deal, and I took the car with me to Texas.
You remember what you bought it for? Was it
$7,000.
That's motor, car, the whole shop.
Whole thing. Motor, car, painted, transmission, engine.
I mean, the original Quater was a decent looking car, right? I mean, it was for those times, it was a pretty up to par drag bug.
It did. It made VW Trends magazine, and I think it was August of '85, August of '86.
Yeah.
Came out in VW Trends whenever Cliff had it. So I took over the car. I moved to Texas, and then that's when my racing career actually started. In October of '86, we had a Texas VW Buggin at the Texas Motorplex.
Yeah.
And that was my first Buggin I took it to. No, I think I took it to another local event prior to that. But anyway, from October of '86, I ran every Buggin they had until they had no more of them.
And what was that car running? So it started by the time you picked up, it was a 1230 car.
It was a 1230 car, and then by the time I retired it, I got it to run a 1086.
A 1086 with the same short block?
Not that. No, I stepped it up a little bit bigger. It was an 86 by 94 by the time I stopped racing it, and it ran on 48 Webers, Type 1 gearbox, with VW heads, highly modified VW heads.
Well, the big D ports welded,
relocated. And the fins were all machined off of it. They had nothing but 2 fins left on these heads.
Right.
I still have them. You want to see these things.
What kind of
these
compression
things need to go to the Sleigh Museum.
Yeah. What they were got 12 cc's in each one of these heads?
They were. Oh, you wouldn't believe how they look now, and all the welding that was done around the combustion chamber, because we fly cut them so much there was nothing left. So we had to come back and weld up the combustion chamber, and then remachine for the cylinders to fit in it.
And
it was, yeah.
You said you ran this car for how many seasons did you run this car and you retired it, you said?
From 1986 to about 1996.
And what made you why'd you retire the car?
Because I wanted to step out. I had so much fun for the first 10 years of racing, and I did a majority of it was bracket racing. But toward the end, heads-up racing became popular, and I was interested in racing more heads-up, because I didn't like bracket racing because I didn't want to have to limit my car to a certain ET. Every time I got in my car, I wanted to get this thing to run as fast as I could get it to go. And I said the only way I could do that is running the heads-up class. And then the Pro Stock came about before I had a Pro Stock, and I said, man, that is the class I want to eventually run in. But the car I had, Quater 1, was not a Pro Stock car.
Now, for those listeners that aren't sure what a Pro Stock, what makes, so Quater 1 was a pan car?
Yes, it was. It was a 1967
Beetle
pan with a roll cage built in it. It wasn't fancy. It weighed 1,600 pounds with me in it.
A fiberglass front end?
Fiberglass front end.
So
steel
lightened
fenders, steel doors,
up, Lexan windows, stuff like that.
windows. Yep.
So pretty much like your budget build drag car.
Right.
And now to go to super stock first, what is a super stock car definition wise?
Or pro stock car.
I'm sorry, pro stock. Yeah,
pro stock cars are tubular cars, chassis cars, lighter. With sometimes some of them have a Volkswagen front suspension with a beam. Some of them have struts. And in the rear has to be a VW gearbox, VW, pretty much VW suspension in the back, because a lot of them go to ladder bars or 4-link. Some of them have a torsion bar. So back to how I got started in pro stock was that a buddy of mine, Sterling Adams, had a pro stock car he had built from the chassis shop, Stu Spears, and he ran it for a couple of years but didn't really like it. It got away from him and it scared him a couple of times, and he was wanting something different. So I said, man, I want to buy your car. So we struck a deal and I bought what he had. I bought his car.
So it was finished or was close to finished?
It was finished, but it had a 1964 body on this chassis originally. It was in primer. It was never completed.
Okay.
He built it to where he could start testing with it, but never finished. Took it apart to really finish it, to paint it. And then I took it and I did several changes to it through the years. I put a split window body on it after the first time. I hit the wall with it in Phoenix in 1997.
Oh,
with
yeah.
the Phoenix at the, not the Firebird, but that other racetrack up in Speedway, Speedway, or
yeah, I know that. Is it? Well, Firebird's the one, but there's one outside of town that's
outside of town. That is the one we ran at. I don't think that track is still in existence now.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm thinking Wild Horse or something like that, but I can't recall what the name of it was. But outside of Phoenix, this is
Speed World was the name of it.
Speed World in the late '90s.
The late '90s.
And you hit the wall with it?
I took it to a pro stock race for the first one I ran at, and I tagged the wall.
Who were you running against?
I don't remember who I was running against at that time. I think it was during the qualifying.
And who were the contemporaries in that class at the time?
At the time, you had Jack Sacchetti, you had Mitch Evison, I think was still racing at the time, Adam Wick, Dean Lowry.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the old pro stockers that first started out.
And now you're in that class and you tagged the wall.
I tagged the wall,
that was in
so
qualifying?
I had to bring it back home, bent up. The body's bent up. The chassis was in good shape, so I had to find a new body for it. So a buddy of mine down in Austin said, man, I got this split window body that I started building the car, but he goes, I gave up on it, but I have this body if you want to buy it. So I struck a deal with him and bought this body. And then I took the body and chassis to Jim Larson back in California.
Yeah.
Dropped it off with him. And
JCL,
I said,
right?
JCL. And I said, I want this, can you put this split window body on this chassis and get it going for me? So he did. He did a fantastic job with it. Got it back to Texas, and then I took it all apart, painted it, powder coated it, put it back together. And then my total goal was to have this car featured in hot VW. That was my dream.
Yeah.
And after it was all built, R.K. Smith contacted me and he saw it. He goes, we want to take pictures of it. So I took it to Denver, Colorado in 1999 for the Denver, Colorado Buggin.
Yeah, Mile High Buggin.
And I ran it. They had a pro stock race up there. I ran it at that event, and RK took a photo shot of it, and he featured the thing in hot VW and made it on the front cover. And I said, my dream is fulfilled now. Now I said, now I'm gonna start racing this thing.
I mean, it's a good feeling, right? You put so much time and effort
I
to
put
build
a lot of love and tears and blood in this thing, and that was my baby.
Making it look good, and so
making it look good.
And that car, what are you running for? What are you running for transaxle on that car at the time?
It has a Type 2 gearbox in it, an 091 Type 2 bus gearbox with CV joints in it. It was an IRS setup with a 4-link. It worked fantastic. I raced it for probably 24 years now.
So you raced that car, that's Quater Toy 2.
Quater Toy 2, yes.
You raced for 23 years.
From when I first got it from Sterling, that was in 1996, 97. And I crashed it 2 years ago in Texas. And that took a big wind out of me.
Was it one of the events?
It was at a pro stock event we had in Texas. It was happened to be on Halloween Day. Halloween Day, I crashed this car. I got tricked instead of treated that day.
Oh, it's brutal. What happened?
The car got away from me, and on the top of third gear, the car took a violent left-hand turn in the right lane and went across the lane and hit the wall and spun. The thing caught fire because the gas tank was up front, batteries up front. It immediately caught fire. There's videos out there that probably a lot of people seen where you could see Dean Kirsten videotape this thing. The driver's door flew straight up in the air, about 50 feet up in the air, and you could read the name on the door up in the air. You could see the name, Quater. Oh, it was sickening, but I got through it though.
After all these years racing that car, and did you ever determine what happened with the car?
What caused it that day was, I think, a lot of it because the track was not prepped. The track was not prepped that day for Volkswagens, and these cars got to have a well-prepped track to go down there. That day, there were other cars that was in the pro stock class that had problems trying to get their cars down the track. Well, it just happened to bite me. But lo and behold, I wound up having a second pro stock car that I call Quater 3.
Hold on, you had a second pro stock car in the wings?
I
You
did.
had
already
a car
had
you were
it.
building?
Well, I guess I skipped several years, but in 2006, I had the opportunity to acquire another pro stock car. So I said, why not have two cars? Have a backup.
So it was too good, it was too good of a deal to pass up.
Too good of a deal to pass up.
You know what it takes to build that car.
Yes.
Someone offered it for you for quite a big discount. You thought, well, it's always good to have a spare car. Maybe I'll build another one, or who knows.
Yes. And this one was a Ron Loomis car. I bought it less engine because I had engines already that I was wanting to run in this thing. So I started campaigning that one from 2006 to currently, which I still have.
So Damon, you had two cars you were campaigning at the same time. How did your competition feel about campaigning two cars at once?
You know what? None of them liked it. And I don't understand why, because now I'm splitting 100% of my time on one car to 50% for each car, which,
Right.
if you look at it correctly, well, hell, let him try. Let him have 5 cars. It's more work on him.
Yeah.
I had 2 cars, and I built them, and I built the engines and transmissions out of them, and I wanted to drive my own cars. And since they both pro stock cars, I wanted to enter them both in pro stock to see if I could qualify them. So I took them up to Virginia, West. We had a big pro stock nationals at Virginia Motorsports Park. And that was the first time I brought both of them to the track at one time. Prior to going up there, I heard people saying, oh, you can't race 2 cars. Well, it may not have never been done before, but why not? Let's start this.
Right.
I think I started a trend because nowadays they got owners that got more than multiple cars, but they having a hard time getting one to the track.
Well, the rules in racing are always made by the first guy that did something that there was no rules about, right? So that's typically how the rules come about.
Yes, absolutely. That's how the incarnation of racing began. People with creative minds tried different things, new things. Some people liked them, some people protested them.
Yeah.
Well, I got protested when I showed up with 2 cars, but it was hard enough to get a full field of cars in VW Pro Stock.
Yeah.
So I'm bringing 2 cars to the track. And they said, well, you need another driver. Well, how many people will have a car at this caliber where just let anybody drive your car?
Right.
So I wanted to take the risk, being that my own 2 cars. So, but I had a backup plan if they wouldn't let me do it, which they didn't. So I did have another driver in mind, and this guy, Tim Wachowski, took the driving honors and raced my Quater 3 that event. So I tried it at other events. I was able to do this and run both cars at a couple of Texas events that we put on here locally. And I brought them out there and ran them in the same class. And I went from one car to the next But you have to think, how can you do this without messing up the program? And I told the guy, look, I don't want to slow down your program. When we qualify, I'll put one car in the front of the lanes, and I'll put the second car in the behind the lanes. So when I run the first car, I already had it planned out where my guy on the four-wheeler was down at the top end to pick me up and bring me straight back to the staging lane so I could get in the second car.
Yeah.
And I'll leave that car, the first car, down at the other end after I make one pass. And I came back, got in the second car, made a qualifying pass out of it. You know, it was smooth. They didn't have to wait on me. And I thought that was kind of cool that I was able to do that.
And how many years did you run both cars?
I ran both cars from 2006 when I first got it going to 2021 when I had a mishap in Quater 2 here in Texas.
Yeah.
And they both pro stock cars, right? They're normally aspirated. I got them set up for 9 pounds per cubic inch.
Uh-huh.
And so it got to the point where when you couldn't do it, you'll have to enter one car in Pro Turbo, Pro model, whatever that class was. So I said, well, I want to get more seat time out of the car, so I'll just go ahead and do it. So I ran pro stock with one car, and I put the other car in Pro Mod for a couple of different years. And believe it or not, at the end of the year, I won the championship in both classes.
Oh, wow.
That was a great accomplishment. And for the turbo car, not all of them was consistent at each event, and not all of them showed up, but I was showing up with 2 cars at each event.
Right, so consistency won it out for you.
Consistency did, and it did. Even though I wasn't the fastest, at the end of the year, I wound up 2 different years winning pro stock and pro turbo with them.
Nice.
So I did what I wanted to do.
And now, were these...
So then
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, then I just started concentrating more on the pro stock class and left the pro mod class alone because it was just like taking a knife to a gunfight when I had a pro stock car on turbo.
Right. So now let me ask you on with running both of those cars, were the builds identical on those cars or were they different as far as motors?
I had the same cubic inch engine in both of them, but it was 2 different combinations of stroke and bore. But I had them set up same cubic inch within about 1 cubic inch difference. Mm-hmm. So I had them weighing the same. So if I needed to swap motors, I could do that. Either car could accept either motor. I made them to where I could, swap motors. Now, the transmissions were different in each car, so I had a spare in each one of them.
Yeah.
My Quater 3 started out being a Type 1 gearbox, which last year I finally converted it over to a bus for reliability. And then my Quater 2, the other one, was always set up with a bus gearbox with a 4-link system. And it worked well.
Now, what is the pro stock? What defines a car as pro stock? So it's a tube chassis.
Yes.
It is typically their coil-over cars in the rear, possibly struts or beam in the front.
Right.
And then it's pretty much a full aftermarket chassis. Could be a fiberglass body, could be steel body, or does it need to be steel body and fenders?
It could be either or.
Okay, so it's pretty much
unlimited.
But it
boils down to pounds per cubic inch. Our rule says 9.5 pounds per cubic inch.
Which means what's the maximum weight of the car, or you can go lighter car, smaller motor.
It has a minimum weight of 1,300 pounds.
Mm-hmm. Which would be what displacement motor?
Like, a 1,300 pound car, you still got to meet the 9.5 pounds per cubic inch. And to get a car that light, the motor has to be like about an 86, 94 to fit that minimum weight if you want to run the car that weight. I don't recommend it because I think those cars are a little bit too light for the amount of power that these motors are making now.
Right. Now, there's no power adders in this class. It's all motor.
Yes, it's all motor, carburetors or fuel injection.
How many cars run in this class today?
In the country, probably in the U.S., I think there are probably a dozen cars out there because we've seen a dozen of them at Texas back last September.
Now, did you do Texas versus the World last September?
I did, which is my home track.
And how did you fare over there?
I wound up with third that day. I had a hard time getting power down to the ground that day, and I had traction issues, and that cost me my elimination round. I qualified, I think, that event two, possibly three on that particular event, but made it to the semifinals and got beat because I lost traction at the start line. I had the fastest mile an hour that day, so the motor was making a lot of good power, but I just couldn't get it to the ground.
Now, was there any records set that day?
No.
And who currently holds the record in that class?
Well, Pat Downs has the ET record right now, which I had currently held prior to that for several years. But
And when did Pat get that record?
he got that in 2017 when we ran Farmington, North Carolina. I did a lot of traveling with these cars of mine, and but I had to. Because I had to go run pro stock. I had to go where the races were.
Right, and for you being in Texas, they're scattered mostly on the east and southeast?
East Coast, North Carolina, South Carolina, Ohio, Texas. We even ran Florida.
And what's the best track you've been at?
The best track I would say is probably Texas Motorplex in Ennis.
And that's the one where they do Texas versus the world?
No, which is an 8th mile track, which is not too far from that particular track.
Now, is your car set up for both 8th and quarter?
Yes.
Or is it just the difference of going in third gear versus fourth?
It's different between going in third and fourth.
So
Third gear is my
eighth mile.
Is 8th mile. I do 3 gears in 8th mile and 4 gears in quarter mile. So I don't have to replace the gearbox like most people say, well, I don't have a quarter mile gearbox. You can make it one, you can make it a gearbox to work for both of them. And I did.
So you built the gearbox specifically for quarter
or 8th mile.
Nice. And now, what's your best ET 8th mile?
Best time is a 5.99 at 117.99 miles an hour, which holds as a current pro stock mile per hour record.
And Pat's record is?
A 5.90.
So 9/10 faster. And 9/10 faster ET wise, what's his mile an hour?
His was like 115. Or he may have been like 116, but I was right at 1.8, bumping 118 mile per hour.
So you guys had a full field out there with 12 cars, pretty much almost a full field. It says full
Not every race,
16.
but we can,
Now, are you coming out to this race of champions in Vegas? And
I plan on being there.
So you plan on being there, and hopefully everybody shows up, everybody that's anybody, so we could battle it out in Vegas.
That's right.
So would you love to do a heads up versus Pat?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Me and Pat, we good buddies. Even though we race each other, but when it comes at the start line, the gloves are off.
I love it. The motor setup that's in your car currently is what displacement?
It's 158 cubic inch, and I'm running a set of max speed billet heads that you currently see here today.
Right. We interviewed Mex earlier and got his whole disposition of this. So he's got his custom billet heads and all that stuff. Now, did you notice a big difference from you running Autocraft before, and then you put these heads on?
I had Autocraft heads before, which I still have as a backup engine.
And what was the difference you noticed ET wise with these heads?
The ET is about the same right now. I ran a 599 with my Autocraft heads before, and I ran a 599 with these Max Speeds heads currently.
Now
But the Max Speeds heads currently have more potential. I just hadn't got it down to the track yet.
Now, is your car fuel injected?
No, it's carburetors.
Is that a limit in the class, carburetors? Or it can be injected too, right? Pat's injected?
Pat is fuel injection, and there's a few other cars, a couple of cars out of fuel injection, but I currently chose the carburetor route right now. Because the fuel injection really hadn't proved to me yet that they could outrun the mile an hour yet.
Now, what are they? What are the carbs you're running?
I'm running the Terminators right now on there.
And that's
62 millimeter
62
Terminators.
millimeter?
Yeah.
And what camshaft?
It's a competition cam, custom grind to match my heads.
Now, to match your heads, so is the different lobe centers and stuff like that because of the different head design, or it's custom designed based on
the head flow performance of these heads.
Now, what do these heads flow versus some autocrafts. Is there flow numbers that are out there?
These heads flow a lot more than the autocraft heads. And when you're talking flow numbers, you gotta know what flowing at what rate. But these definitely outflow my autocraft heads.
And you think
But flow's not always everything, though.
And you think with the 62, you can get more with the 62 millimeter terminators on there. You can get more power out of it than what's there now.
Yes, there's still more there that I haven't got out to and got it onto the track yet, because I do a lot of engine dyno work with it, and I see the power there. But now I have to get the car sorted out so I can get it down to the ground.
And you're talking about traction is
Yes.
the biggest issue. What are you running for gearbox?
Well, I had a Type 1 gearbox in this thing up until last year,
Yeah.
because I broke a lot of ring and pinions of this thing. And I build my own gearboxes. So I wanted to step it up to a Type 2 gearbox because I know those are much stronger. So I currently switched it over to a Type 2 gearbox. And since I did that, it changed the way the car reacted at the starting line.
So it's like a different car now.
Different car now. So now I'm in the sorting out phases again, trying to get it sorted so I could get the power back down to the ground. And then hopefully the ET should increase.
Now, where do you see, I mean, you've been racing this class for a long time.
Yes.
Obviously the limiting factor is the horsepower per cubic inch, and then, I mean, what's the biggest thing? Is it that it's a lot of work to race this class and there's no money in it, or what do you think would, what do you
People
think
do it for just the love of it. The money is really not in it to make a living on it. It's
Right.
great when you do have a good payday.
Sure.
And lately the payouts are been getting better,
Yeah.
which is more attractive, for racers that want to come out and run for a bigger purse, and that's what's helping the class. Thank promoters for bringing in more money, and it's bringing the guys out of the woodwork and getting them back on the track again. I never left the track,
Yeah.
and since I started in 1986, every year I raced something.
Every single year.
Every single year from 1986 now.
You work on Volkswagens for a living or no?
Not a living, but I guess you could call it a living, a side living.
Yeah.
I have a day job, which I own a fire extinguisher service company, and when I'm
Okay.
not doing that, I am working on Volkswagens.
Oh, you're that guy. That guy comes by my business and says, hey, it's that time of year. Give me your fire extinguishers.
Yeah, I'm that guy. But maybe not much longer, though.
Yeah. So, with the technology that's out there, obviously you went a different route with some mech speeds heads. What's your, when you're going to dial the car in? So obviously before Vegas, you're going to take it and test the car
I'll
a
be doing
bunch.
some testing. Yeah, back home I will be.
And goal is to get that car to hook and go.
Hook and go.
Now, is everybody in that class running around the same compression?
I have no idea. I just know the motors that I build, and I build a few other motors for other competition, for other competitors. But
What about what compression you guys run?
anywhere from 14.5 to 15.5.
And the limit, is there a limitation on fuel you can run?
We have a specific fuel that we have to run, which is a VP C14 Plus or C14.
Which is, what's the octane rating on that?
It's rated at 114 octane.
Okay, so it's like a
114 or 115 if it's a 14 plus. Gives it like one more octane.
And I mean, on that motor, you're really pushing the limit with compression and detonation and stuff like that with
Yes.
air cooled.
Yes.
You think there should be any changes to the class?
Changes as of in fuel.
I don't know. What?
We never really tried anything else. The fuel that we have to run, it is a little bit harder to come by between a lot of distributors that offer fuel. Like a fuel like a C16, which is compatible to the 14, and I really don't think there's that much difference in a gain, but it's more readily available like a C16, and if we change it to a C16, then it'll be a little bit more,
Squeeze a little more lemon out of that juice?
that, and plus it's more available. It's more readily available than a 14 that we have to currently run. But back when we set the rules for the fuel, 14, we just picked 14 as a fuel, and we stuck to it.
Do you build transmissions on your own?
I do, because for me to afford to race, I had to learn how to build my own stuff.
Really?
Because I couldn't afford to pay people to build my stuff back when I first got started.
Sure.
And so I enjoy building my own stuff. And I had to learn by failures.
And you build your own motors and
I
transmissions?
do.
And what's easier to build, a motor or transmission?
They both have some challenges.
Yeah. Which
Transmissions are a little bit easier to me. Engines take a little bit more time to build.
right?
Transmissions are easier for me to build.
How was building the Type 2 box for you?
It's just as easy as a Type 1. A little bit easier, probably. For me, it would be.
Now,
The Type 2 is a little bit easier to build because it's easier to set up a ring and pinion in a Type 2 gearbox than a Type 1.
now when you were assembling that transaxle, you noticed everything was substantially larger.
The ring and pinion is substantially larger, and also the case. But the gear stack is the same type of a gear stack it would be on the Type 1 or the Type 2.
So are the gears interchangeable, Type 1 and Type 2?
Yes. But
So-
you want to have a different ratio in a Type 2 than a Type 1 because of the ring and pinion availability.
Yeah.
You want to get your gear stack set right.
And what ring and pinion you run in your car?
It has a 457 ring and pinion in its Type 2 gearbox of mine.
And that's a Weddell? Is that
Actually, I have a German.
It's OEVW?
Yes.
Really?
Been modified
Nice.
to the Type 1 pinion shaft
For what reason on that?
because you could run the Type 1 gear stack on it and not the 091 gear stack.
So you modified they modified the pinion shaft.
Yeah, cut and weld the Type 1 shaft onto it. Yes, sir.
And I mean that's a forged piece too, right? So that shaft,
Yeah.
so they reheat treat it and all that stuff to try
Not
to
a heat treat. It didn't have to reheat treat it, but I cut off that part of the shaft that has the 091 splines on it, and you take a broken Type 1 gearbox, Type 1 pinion, you cut it and you made it to the head of the 091 bus. A lot of modification goes into the gearboxes. People that people don't even imagine.
That sounds like a ton of work, but with the Type
Now
1
you
gearbox,
can buy the 457s if they're available,
yeah.
but at the time I had to make one.
Now we did our original interview, and I let everybody know I was adding a couple of stories because we were chatting after the interview, and I said, man, we really want to get those stories in the podcast. Now you told me a crazy story. What is this crazy story you told me about with drag racing with one of the drag races that you had that you were into?
Well, this was back in 1988 or 89. I was only racing my first car, Quater 1, the red one that most people know of with the key on the back. And I was taking it to as many events that I could go to because I just enjoyed racing, enjoyed traveling with the car. So they had a race in Denver, Colorado every year in the heat of in August. So we went up there, me and a few buddies here in Texas, we drove up there to Colorado. And at that time they had a quick 16 class. And I qualified in quick 16, and that class paid $1,000 to win. So we get up there, and I forgot where I qualified, but anyway, toward the end of the day, I made myself I made one first round, one second round, and then civilized, and then I made it to the final round. But when I made it to the final round, I realized that my gearbox was giving me grief, and it was making noise, and that noise was ringing pinion noise. I knew what that noise was.
Yeah.
And I said, no, and I said, let me see if this car can make one more pass. Here I am in the final. I said, I'm just going for broke. I'm going for it. So I had to race this guy out of California. His name was Darren. I forgot the guy's last name. So we get up there. We should do a burnout, but I did a little small burnout because I didn't want to break it on the burnout. I wanted to get it to the start line and hoping that he would red light on me, and then that way I didn't have to run the car all out.
Yeah.
So we get up there, we both stage, and boom, tree came down, and I tried to take off, and boom, I heard a big boom, and the gears crashing, and the car moved about 2 foot. And the other guy took off, he launched his car, and after the first 60 feet, I saw an explosion come out of his back end of his car. He had a flash fire. He blew the motor up, so he instantly moved over to the guardrail. And I'm sitting there in the car, staring at him, looking at the tree, and thinking, well, okay, who won this race? Somebody got to get down there. So my instinct told me, well, just get out and push this thing. Somebody got to get to the finish line to win. So I jumped out of my car, helmet still on, and actually the motor was still running the whole time because I didn't even shut the motor off. And I just started pushing this thing, started pushing, and I get past him. He's like right past 60 feet. And at this time, the whole crowd saw what I was doing. They started cheering me on. And then I get it, folks. This is Denver, Colorado,
Yeah.
where you have very little air to breathe up there. And here I'm trying to push this 1,650-pound car
With a helmet
down
on.
the racetrack with a helmet on. And I'm pushing and pushing and pushing. And then I get past him, and then he realized, whoa, he's pushing the car down the track. So this guy started pushing his car down the track. And then he's a big, tall, langer, bigger legs than I do. And he started catching up to me because he was a little bit further down the track than I was. And I had to start from the starting line. So I get all the way down to about 50 feet maybe, and I saw that he was catching up to me. So I said, I'm going to jump in this thing and just slam this thing again. Hopefully I was running out of breath. So I jumped in there, popped it in second gear, and let the clutch out. And it made it in and crossed the finish line. And boom, I saw the $1,000 in my head. All right. I get out of the car and I almost fell down, man. And the whole crowd this time hollering and yelling and cheering me on. But you know, that was the best race I think I ever did out of my 30-something years, 40 years of racing.
It took everything you had, literally. Yeah.
To win this event.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you making the time, because like I said, when you told me that story, I just thought that's one of the greatest stories that's got to be told. And what's hilarious is there should have been video coverage of that thing forever.
Actually, there is video coverage. I do have video coverage of it. Several people at that time had these VHS cameras, and they were videotaping it. I got copies of it in my archive somewhere.
I'm going to have to find that. I'll have to get that.
Yeah, you need to get it out, send it out, digitize it or whatever. But it's out there. I know it's out there.
Well, Damon, I'm looking forward to seeing you out here in Vegas in December, and we'll for sure catch up then.
All righty. Well, I'm planning on taking my Quater 3 out there, try to qualify in pro stock, and we're hoping to have a good time. You know, this is what it's all about.
Yeah, hopefully you and Pat can run them heads up.
I would love to.
So, I'm excited to see you get out there in Vegas in October. Now, do you have any street cars? Do you run any street cars, Volkswagens?
Well, my street bug, my Baja bug that I currently have, after 46 years, I still have today.
And what motors is that?
I built a 86 by 94 motor for it now. It has a blow-through turbo setup on it. I'm not much on a turbo guy, but I said, well, I'm going to do a dual one for my Baja bug, just to be different.
Yeah, so it's a single or dual turbo, you said?
It's a blow-through turbo.
It's a single turbo setup.
No, it's a dual Weber blow-through setup.
So it's got dual Weber carburetors.
48 IDFs.
With blow-through.
With a blow-through.
And how's that? You know, it's interesting you bring that up. A lot of people say on a blow-through carburetor setup, you need to do special sealing the carburetor and all that kind of stuff.
It does require that. These do leak a little fuel through the throttle shafts.
Which I've heard through some people, if you keep it 7 pounds and below, you don't need to do any kind of sealing on that stuff.
Yeah, I don't have a whole bunch of pressure going through it. I think it maxed out like 15 PSI.
But she moves pretty good?
It does pretty damn good.
Yeah, surprises some people.
It's my daily driver. I could get in and take it to California, take it to Florida. And it's been to Florida before.
Has it?
It's been over the Golden Gate Bridge before, and it's been all the way to Panama City Beach several times.
Really?
And I live in Texas.
And
that car has 1 million miles on it.
And no hesitation driving it, huh?
Not at all.
That's awesome. Well, anything else we didn't touch on that you think's important that the people out there in VW land need to know?
Well, yes, I just wish more people that had these kind of pro stock cars would get them back out there on the track, because there's a lot of cars that have been dormant for a while. And now that I think the class is coming back alive again because of these bigger events that the promoters are putting on, is getting some of these cars back out again.
Have you done it? You haven't done any of the Volks Group stuff yet?
The which now?
The Volks Group, the guys up in Medford, or
no, I haven't been out there.
It's a little too far.
I've been to California several times with my car before, but not lately, because they hadn't had a pro stock class yet. Well, they had one up in Sonoma.
Yeah, in Samoa.
But I chose not to make it. I had other plans that particular weekend and didn't make it.
I know they're doing another event coming up. I think it's Memorial Day. Is that the one? Or Labor Day?
Labor Day, I think it is.
Yeah, Labor Day is the second half of the year. So I know they're doing another one that Labor Day weekend. I don't know where it's at. I think it may be in Medford. I got to look at my calendar, but no, for sure. Well, a lot of those guys hopefully will be at the Race of Champions in Las Vegas on December 7th.
To that one.
So. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you out there. You'll be out there. Mex says coming out there, so
Mex is.
I'm excited to see that.
See his car out there,
Me too. And I'm looking forward to seeing it's Quater Toy 3 that's out now.
Quater Toy 3 is out.
Well,
Yep.
I'm excited to see it,
But
and
believe it or
hopefully
not, I do have Quater Toy 1. I took it back out for the first time last year in about 20 years.
yeah.
I took it out of the mothballs and cleaned it up and put an engine in it. And
So you got all of them.
So I got 1 and 3 going right now.
Nice. Well, I definitely appreciate you making some time to sit down with us and kind of giving us your story. And I'm looking forward to seeing you out in Vegas. Hopefully we'll get to see you run, we can see Max run, we can see everybody. Hopefully it's a big gathering of all the who's who of drag racers to come out and see who can take the money.
You bet.
Man.
And I love the challenge, you know.
That's
it's a
it.
passion I have.
And this year I'm going to try to make it out to, I'll see if I can make it out to Texas versus the world.
That'll be great.
You know, see those guys run out there, because I heard it was a
looking
good
forward to seeing you
turnout.
out there.
A lot of the East Coast guys showed up out there, and a
Yeah.
lot of cars in that race. So I'm excited to see it.
I am too.
Well, hey, I appreciate you for sitting down with us, and I look forward to seeing you in Vegas.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Thank you
thanks.
for your time, man. It's been enjoyable.
Thank you. Well, if you guys like that podcast, and I know you did, go give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and get a shout out. If you want to support the podcast, go to letstalkdubs.com, click on the store page, and pick up some merch. For more information on One Crazy Weekend, go to letstalkdubs.com, click on the flyer on the main page, and let's make it happen. I'll see you guys in October, One Crazy Weekend. It's going to be legit. And until next week, guys, later.
You probably don't know that there's a new Volkswagen out that doesn't look like a Volkswagen.